Malaysia's opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim has lost his appeal against a conviction for sodomy. He was sentenced to 5 years in jail last March after being accused of having sex with a male aide in 2008. The country's top court has now upheld his conviction. Anwar and his supporters insist the allegations are politically motivated. Well, a spokesman for the Malaysian government released a statement. It goes like this: the police report against Anwar Ibrahim was brought by a private individual, not by the government. Exhaustive and comprehensive due process has been followed over many years, and that process is now complete. We call on parties involved to respect the legal process of the judgment. Sohail, Rahman live for us now in Kuala Lumpur. It's not just Ibrahim saying that this was politically motivated. We've got a statement from Human Rights Watch saying the whole thing was a corrupt process. But in political terms and in terms of where he goes now in the country, his career is pretty much over.
Indeed, at the age of 67, Anwar Ibrahim is heading to Sungai Buloh prison. It's about 30 kilometres north of Kuala Lumpur, and that's where he will certainly now live out, you might say, the next 5 years of the sentence that he's been handed down by the federal court, which is behind me. About an hour ago, that decision was made to a certain extent gasps and somewhat surprised by his supporters and family who'd gathered. There were many hundreds of people who'd gathered in the early hours of the morning. They'd come from all over Malaysia to support Anwar himself and his family. But soon as the deliberations began from the five-man bench headed by the Chief Justice of Malaysia, it soon became evident that a guilty verdict was going to be handed down. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Phil Robertson. He is part of Human Rights Watch Asia. You were in the court earlier today. What's your initial reaction to the verdict? You've been following this case for many years.
Well, I think we're shocked and saddened, but not surprised. Unfortunately, this has been a politically motivated persecution by the government from day one. And now the Malaysian government has got their man. They've put Anwar away for 5 years. They have ended his political career. They've thrown the political opposition in disarray. And essentially they've left a very black mark on human rights issues in Malaysia.
Now the opposition, human rights watchers, as well as the international community, have often thrown the accusation of a politically motivated trial against Anwar. I mean, what evidence is there? What can you tell our viewers around the globe about this statement? Because the government themselves have a point to make, that it was made by an individual against another individual. The government had nothing to do with it.
Well, I think that claim by the government doesn't really stand up to close examination. What political opposition aid claiming an abuse would be received by the top police officer and by the Prime Minister of Malaysia prior to filing charges? They have tried to maintain this idea that somehow this was an individual pursuing a case, but the Malaysian government threw all their resources behind this. And in fact, when they weren't quite confident about their own prosecutors, they brought in their star lawyer, the special prosecutor that was brought in by the government for this final trial.
What does this actually mean now? Obviously, Malaysians will perhaps debate and discuss this for the weeks, the years ahead. But in terms of the politics of Malaysia, it's just had a general election, back in 2013. Still a few years left for this government to try and make an impression on the Malaysian public at whole. But how about the opposition? Where do they stand right now? How do you see their fortunes changing?
Well, there's now a major challenge for the opposition because, of course, Anwar Ibrahim was really the linchpin of that three-party coalition. He was the person that held it together. And that's part of the dynamic, and I think part of the various different ideas of the government in terms of pushing this forward, is that they were going to try to disrupt the opposition. Certainly they have done so, but they've done it at a great cost to Malaysia's international reputation. I think the government of Malaysia is going to be stunned by the depth of anger around the world of this conviction of a political opposition leader who's widely admired on charges that most people don't believe, for a crime that most people don't believe should be a crime in the first place.
I'm sure there will be a great deal of fallout, and we will watch it intently. For the moment, Phil Robertson, thanks very much for joining us. Phil Robertson there from Human Rights Watch. And as we say, that verdict was only handed down about an hour ago. So for the moment, we wait to see what the fallout is domestically and internationally, David.
Sohail Rahman, thank you very much indeed, live for us in Kuala Lumpur.